Resource meeting, 2:15. Yes,
Yes, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for blessing us so much, Lord, as a nation and as individuals. We ask that you would please lead and guide and direct us and the decisions we make. And we just love you and give you all the praise. And in your name, amen.
Amen. Yes, sir. Rex Jordan.
here.
E.O. Smith.
Here.
Bill England. Keith Austin.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
He's here.
Joe Bird.
On him.
Sean Crittenden. Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Wanda Hatfield. Dick White. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Mary Bakershaw.
Ani.
Denise Taylor. Here. Victoria Vesquez. David Walkingstick. Brian Warner.
On it.
Hayden Duncan.
Amen.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of January the 12th.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Passes. Reports, management resources, Mr. David Moore.
Good afternoon. Had our report. Any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, I'll get you the answer.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Taylor.
I just have one question on this whistle or tin horn that was replaced. Where was that? I didn't catch it.
Do all the answers but that one.
All of them but that one. I can get you that answer.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Gosh, I can't remember which one that is. Yeah,
It looks like the road was almost impassable.
it was very bad, yes.
Prior to this work. So if you could just shoot me an email.
I will.
send
I was
you
trying
or
to see.
whatever.
I've got a report on it, but looks like it didn't get put in this.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Moore. Book stick.
Hey, Dave, on the, I know last month we talked about tearing down the Hastings orthopedic surgery clinic.
The PT building?
Have you guys got a cost yet on what that's gonna cost?
No, we just received bids. C&E received bids Friday on that. So they've got 3 or 4 bids in. Today, they're doing D-scopes with those people, so they'll know more in a day, or at the end of the day.
Okay. Also, on the new clinic we're building, the Terrell contractors are talking about some kind of stairwell or a staircase that's right in front of the hospital. What is that? What are they talking about?
Probably the big spiral staircase.
Yes.
Is that the
I guess
one?
that's what it is, yeah. It says something you see out of a magazine or something.
It's pretty nice. I mean, it's what you walk in and see, so.
Yeah. What's the significance for it? Is it being used or?
It can be, and a lot of people, I hope, will use it versus elevators. You know, most of your big hospitals and stuff have that grand entry and stairwell in their main areas.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to say thank you for meeting me on that deal about those trees in that cemetery. And I did get the bids, and I had one of them call me, the lowest one actually called me. Said, hey, just let him know, but I'm going to try to appropriate that money somehow. But I just like to tell you that, you know, I appreciate you coming out. It's a freezing day and
Yeah,
it's
it
cold.
was.
And thank you for meeting me.
Yeah. Did you get with the mayor and
Yes,
see if he could
actually
do
I
anything?
did. I did that, and I got with Michael Lynn, and they don't have the assets to do that, and the mayor said they probably don't either on the right of way.
Okay, because I know he, you know,
Yes,
did
sir.
that right away stuff.
Yes,
So,
sir.
darn.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
sir.
Dr. Dobbins.
David, is Natural Resources, do you help with the maintenance of some of our properties, like in Horham, the housing units there?
Not the housing units.
Okay. You know offhand which department would help me with that?
Probably housing,
Housing
I would
Authority?
think, yeah.
Along with pictures, they need pictures in the nutrition unit, pictures of the Miss Cherokee, Junior Miss Cherokee,
That would, I know they,
I get a little bit confused.
Oh, it's
Housing
social.
authority, then I heard like an elder nutrition program center.
The Elder Nutrition Center in Porham,
Okay.
just where they're needing new updated pictures of Junior Miss and Miss Cherokee.
Okay.
did I go through
We'll make that work.
June?
Okay,
I'll get on that.
all right, great.
The one at four.
Right,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry.
Any other questions?
I just think you, just one, and you may not know the answer, the new OSU building. I've seen an artistic rendering of it. I can't figure out what it's supposed to look like. Can you tell me?
I don't know if they have like what it's supposed to look like. I mean, they want it to look like our campus, as far as like the rock look that they have on it, the stone veneer, and then they're using the same veneer as it will be on the front of the building also. And I think they've kind of tried to mimic some of their other buildings that they have in Tulsa. Just a little, not a whole lot. Don't know. I mean, it's just a building with, they didn't say what it's supposed to look like. I think it's for everybody with their own opinions on it.
I've got mine.
Now, can you tell me, what type of lights are we hanging around the immersion school for security?
We've been putting LED lights out as best we can. I mean, that's what we're going to. Incandescent, it's going
glad to
away,
hear.
so everything that we buy, wall packs, anytime we replace something, we do it with LED.
Wonderful. So all the exits and entrances are well lit for our kids, right?
We're trying. If there's not one, they need to let us know. I mean, we do try, and we have security goes around every now and then and flags some of the poles if the lights are out, stuff like that. So everybody pitches in. It's not just on one person. I mean, a lot of the different groups. And then if anybody working here notices something, they'll send us a work order, and we try to get on it.
Is there any chance that down in the near future, hopefully, we'll have security cameras in the school?
That would be with the school and their
That will be
security.
with the school?
And their security, yeah. They're not-
That's not in your job.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something with security in the schools, because, there's so many, you run into a lot of illegal issues and stuff when you start putting cameras up. So that would be with security in the school.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yes.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, sir?
Hey, hello to the Lonnegan boys. I sure appreciate them.
I will.
Yeah,
They're good guys.
I like them.
Yeah, they work hard.
I was down there on a firewood matter, and they got a shop right back there. I said, boys, nobody spends no time in there, do they? They said, we're working there all the time. But it's dangerous. There's a big old hole in that roof, and at any time it could
Yeah.
fall down. And if if it's something that you'd like to look at, we do budget mods all the time, or
I
it's getting
talk-
budget season. And
Yeah, I talked to John about that when I was out there, and he said that he had put in an estimate and stuff on it, and I told him to get it back to me.
Okay, and-
Because this has been a few years back, I guess.
Okay.
So I told him, get it to me, we'll take care of it, because, yeah, there's a
Well, it
pretty
looks like
size
an
hole
old
in it.
mouse
Yeah.
run through there on that
Yeah.
one part. About had it.
And they need a good, safe environment to work in, And they've been pretty good about getting stuff to me, and it's going pretty good. It is.
Has the restrictions lightened up any as far as what we visit about a lot, like if someone's needed some assistance or?
We still hadn't got everything ironed out about how to yet. I mean, we want to, that's for sure. I mean, especially guys right there. I mean, they want to bad too.
I know they do.
If anybody's got any ideas, we're open. 'Cause-
Let's visit.
Yep,
They will visit sometime.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I appreciate you. I know you're doing your job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Real Estate Services, Ginger Brown Reeves.
You have my report in front of you. I'll be happy to address any questions, as long as my voice will hold out.
Is there any questions? You're doing an excellent job.
Jennifer, I have.
Thank you.
Is there any precedence for tribes that in fee simple land, putting them back in trust other than the ones that we have removed from our HUD homes?
The ones where houses are sitting on them?
Yes.
And what was your question?
I said, is there any other fee simple lands that for individuals where the land goes back into trust or restricted status?
There's some that are still left to be held that are out there. The participants through housing are given the opportunity to put it or keep it in trust if it is in trust, or to take it in fee.
Okay. I know Counselor Buzzard's not here, but the Oak Hill, is that still contingent?
Yes, we still haven't received anything on the Oaks Mission. That's on one of our, they still have that at the central office as well.
Okay.
And that was one of those schools as well.
All right, keep up the good work. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Mr.
that.
Chair.
Thank you.
Have a good staff.
Environmental programs, Mr. Tom Elkins.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I hope I do as well as Ms. Reeves. You have our report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, or do my best. Sometimes I'm
Any questions for Tom?
I did even better.
You done good.
All right.
Keep up good work.
Thank you.
Secretary of Natural Resources, Ms. Sarah Hill.
It's nice to meet you, Short Tom. Really nice. Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to be in front of the Tribal Council. I missed the last meeting. I apologize for that. I think it was in Oklahoma City. We've got we've continuing work on several things that I've already talked to you about. So I can give you a brief update on the new cell construction at the landfill. We're continuing to work really hard on that. That's one of my very top agenda items because we need that new cell to be done. It's been, there's always challenges when you're doing construction, rain, weather, rock ledges that you wish weren't there that decide to be there, or you want to build something. So those have been challenging. I've had good assistance from the finance department working through those challenges when we've had them. So that's still on track, and weather permitting, we've lost a little bit of time due to all the wet weather in January, but we're hopeful that we'll catch that up and be able to complete that project on time. We're having construction meetings with all of the construction folks every other week, so we're keeping a very close eye on that. The Volkswagen, we're continuing our work on that. We have our Volkswagen and our grant money for our transit system, so our electric infrastructure project is continuing to go on. It's just immensely complicated trying to get this new technology into all these different places and finding good locations. So that planning work, my staff, Julie Justice and Pat Gwynn, have been working like champs on that project. They've put in a lot of hours trying to get all that lined out, and I know that Cherokee Nation is going to have something to be proud of when it's complete, but it's been challenging too. One of the things I've also been extremely engaged with is the chickens, the continued chicken issues that we have. So I've had an opportunity, so we've changed governors, and that means we've changed all of our cabinet members. So all of the people that I had been working with who knew what was going on are now replaced with completely new people. We've gotten a pretty good draw, I think, on the Secretary of Energy and the Environment, Ken Wagner. I had a meeting with him. We talked for a couple hours about the environmental challenges that we're facing and our concerns, and he said that his top 3 priorities coming into office were Illinois River, and Illinois River. So I said, you're speaking my language. That's just what I like to hear. So he seems extremely engaged on that. He also specifically asked, what is Cherokee Nation's, what is it that we want? What are our priorities? And I've rarely had state officials come into an office knowing to ask those kinds of questions. So I was immensely encouraged by that. I also spoke with Blaine Arthur. She's the new Secretary of Agriculture. While Mr. Wagner has Tahlequah roots, he went to Tahlequah High School. His mother worked for NSU. He understands Eastern Oklahoma very well. Secretary Arthur is from Western Oklahoma, so she doesn't have a lot of context for some of the issues that we're facing over here. I personally invited her, and I know the community members have invited her to come to Eastern Oklahoma and visit Delaware County, visit the 412 corridor, visit Chance and Chewy in Adair County. And they've indicated that they would like to do that. So I'm hopeful that that will continue, that they will come, and I'll be able to continue to educate her about some of what our challenges are here in the Cherokee Nation. She also walked into that job with a permanent rulemaking pending, which she did not, I don't think, she did not create those rules. They were created by the previous Secretary of Agriculture. They had a hearing on it. They took a lot of comment. A lot of community members were there. I submitted another written comment from Cherokee Nation expressing our desire that we have setbacks in place. They are going to be having a hearing tomorrow, or they're going to be issuing a rule tomorrow. And they'll be voting on the rule. And the rule now is it went from a 1/4 mile setback to 1,000 feet setback for poultry houses greater than 150,000 chickens, and there would be 500 feet for houses that have less than 150,000 chickens. And I think she's trying to make some accommodations for companies like Aviagen, who operate very small chicken houses, versus broiler companies like Simmons and Tyson that operate these very large mega houses. And so I know a lot of the community members are already disappointed by that, because they were hopeful. They thought a 1/4 mile was too small. They really think 1,000 feet is too small. It would still be a 100% increase in the current amount of setback, which is 0. So I am hopeful that they will go ahead and pass the rules tomorrow at the Department of Ag meeting. I don't think it's by any means a foregone conclusion that they will, because the rules went up under Secretary Reese for a 1/4 mile, and they were defeated by the department, the board. And so I'm hopeful that tomorrow we'll at least get a 1,000-foot setback. That would be an improvement. And I'm all about improvement where we can get it, even if it's not exactly what we want. I think it's a step in the right direction. The other thing that we have pending is there's a House bill and a Senate bill. The Senate bill has a 500-foot setback. The House bill has a 1/2 mile setback. And so those are continuing to wind their way through the House and the Senate. I am very skeptical that they're going to get one of them are going to get very far based on the rulemaking of the Department of Ag. I think the legislature is going to want to say, well, the Department of Ag has spoken on that, so we're not too inclined to move forward. So we'll see, though. I think that a lot of that also depends on what they hear from constituents and how their communities react. And I know the folks in the communities have really been calling and advocating hard on behalf of the House bill, which is the 1/2 mile setback. So, I mean, this is just one of those things that's not. Chickens has been a decades-long fight for Eastern Oklahoma. That's not going to change or go away anytime in the near future. But if we can make improvements in that, I think that we're going in the right direction, and it looks like we may have some improvements. But we'll see what the Department of Agriculture decides to do tomorrow. So there's just sort of a quick update on all the stuff that's been going on chickens. So then the other thing on my list was the Benham versus Ozark case. This was a case in Saline Creek where the Cherokee Nation has been appointed sort of the overseer and the trustee for this piece of property that was been damaged by gravel mining. So we're overseeing the restoration of that site. And then we will be keeping tabs on it and making sure that it's protected in the future. So getting plans together for how to restore that site and how to take care of it over the long run is something that we've been working with. And we'll be working with the federal courts on how to set that course for that piece of property. So that will be to the benefit of Saline Creek, and that benefits everyone in that area. It's a beautiful creek. So that's what I constitute a short version of what I've got to say today. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them if I can.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
I just have a question regarding the vote on the Department of Agriculture. You said it's going to be tomorrow. Would there be any benefit to the counselors that are concerned about to sending them some type of letter or something? We've done that with legislators before, just, asking them to vote this way or that way and what our position is on it. I realize the Department of Agriculture is not an elected position. Do you see any value in doing that real quick?
I don't think they're open to written comments. They've closed their written comment period. I did submit on behalf of the nation a comment which said basically, we think that a 1/4 mile setback would be great. It might need to be larger than that, but certainly we would support a 1/4 mile setback. In response to that, they submitted the 1,000 feet one. So, I mean, mean, I don't know that it could hurt anything, but I don't know if there's time for that to be effective. And I don't know that they'll accept a written comment at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all I have.
Just want to see.
What are the setbacks in that House bill?
It's a half mile for residences, so you have to be a half mile away from houses. And then I cannot recall off the top of my, it was a half mile for most of the residences. I know it was, I think maybe a half mile for schools, churches, so the half mile setback was pretty broad. And it also protected streams, and so does the current, they're also, I'm just giving you like a little snapshot of what it is. Most people are concerned about the residence setbacks, but it was a half mile in the House bill.
Okay, was the things that they were originally talking about the measuring the amount of the gallons of water that was being put out of the wells and all that, as far as regulating the water, was that in that House bill?
No, that would be this really just deals with ODAF and their regulatory universe that they live, which they can only set agriculture standards. What you're talking about is the maximum annual yield study, which was from the OWRB, so that's controlled by a different agency.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So what's the climate, what's the temperature on this House bill? Is it going to be unanimous, or is it going to be controversial? What's your feel on it?
I mean, that might be a better question for government relations than for me, not being my area of specific expertise, but I do know that it's been, any kind of bill involving agriculture, especially a bill where you have setbacks, that's going to be a controversial bill, because I know the Farm Bureau and a lot of the other big ag entities have already come out and said, we don't like setbacks at all, ever. This is going the wrong direction. So there's already been a lot of pushback, even for the 1,000 feet ODAF rule. The amount of pushback that they're going to get for a law that makes even more protective standards is going to be high. So it's definitely going to be controversial.
Wow. Golly. Thank you, Chair.
Just a second.
Do you have any idea if they're going to go on with the coordinating council? Is it done or what?
I don't know. I talked to Secretary Arthur about that specifically, and when I talked to her, she'd been in office maybe 2 weeks, and we've talked on the phone since then, but in our first sit-down conversation, she said, there's so much, because she's just very unfamiliar with this region. She said, I have so much to learn about that. I don't want to go into a meeting with a lot of people when I'm the person that still needs to get caught up. And so she said, let's just pause. Let's put a pause on that for right now while I get caught up, and then we'll take that issue up again later. So I don't have a definitive yes or no answer for that right now.
Well, that's been kind of disheartening a bit for me to go to those meetings and listen to the things that are going on. Of course, big business is fighting back, and they don't want anything, and I don't know. You're more optimistic than I am about this, because I don't see those bills going anywhere. I just don't, just because of the push from big business. But I don't know if it did any good or not. It got everybody in the same room, which was a good thing. But in the end, there's not a lot of bend either way, and nothing's ever accomplished if there isn't any bend on both sides. So, I don't know if it would do good to have it anymore. I kind of hope it does, but just for the benefit of that, we have some new people coming in. But some of these meetings that I went to, and the water board, the one they had at Kansas, and all these people talked. And what everybody didn't realize is that water board had no authority to change anything that night. So, you could have had 5 million people there talking, and it wouldn't have made a difference, because they didn't have the power to do anything. So, you get into things like that, and everybody doesn't know that, and it's kind of disheartening, to know that no matter what anybody says, nothing's going to change. So, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now, personally, in this deal. So, I don't know. I hope, I appreciate the work you've done, because I know you have done massive amounts of work you have. But, it's just a little disheartening in the end to know that they have these meetings and nothing can be done about it. That's just my take.
Well, let me make a pitch to you that you shouldn't be disheartened. I think that if you look at what's been accomplished, so if you take a step back and look at where we were, even 6 months ago, we had poultry houses going up in that community, and basically there was nothing that anybody could do to stop it. And just in the last 6 months, we went from having absolutely no protection to these people being completely left out in the cold, to having a moratorium on those poultry houses, to having we've had now, this will be our second attempt, but real action on behalf of ODAF to create setbacks, meaningful setbacks for those people, so that now they will not just be completely unprotected, but at least have 1,000-foot setback, which there are a lot of people, as you know, who will say, I would have loved to have had 1,000-foot setback from my home, because that's not what I have, that's not my reality. We've got people in Oklahoma City, legislators bringing bills forward to say, hey, this is a problem, we have to address it. I do not think it's going to get resolved all in this legislative session, but I do think there's been a lot of progress, and as long as people are talking, I think progress has the opportunity to continue. So I feel like we have accomplished a lot. I think that there is still reason to be optimistic about what we can do, as long as people don't get disheartened, because that's when you take your foot off the gas, when you feel like your voice isn't being heard. And so I think it's important to continue to encourage those communities. Look how far we've come based on how far we started back, and look how much further I think we can still go if we keep after this.
Well, I guess I'll have to agree to disagree. I guess the gains that were made, really, as far as a moratorium goes, Simmons said in the meeting that they were done, they didn't need any more. So really, that's kind of a deal where they didn't need any more chicken houses. If they would have, then they probably would have fought it. But they didn't need any more in that Kansas area. That area is already inundated, and there's nothing you can do about it, because everything's going to grandfather into what it is. Yes, it does. I've always said, I told the people up north, I went and spoke up in Ottawa County and told them, the big deal about you guys is, we have them, and they are not going away where we're at. You're the ones that have the chance to maybe get some possibly things stopped for you. But almost it's too late for the Kansas area and Rose, because they're there. And until they pass, they can say whatever they want to say, but until they pass stricter guidelines where the water is checked on these, and you've set through them too, and there's no teeth in that, in checking the water in those houses and things like that. But until those things are done, it really doesn't matter what anybody says, because it's not going to change. And yes, this is a good step by getting legislation, but I also know that there's other legislators who are going to fight this tooth and nail. So it's going to be a difficult thing to do. And at some point in time, though, I think, as things move on, we may have to shift gears and start looking at things differently. Then, we try to get along, we show up these meetings, but in the end, we're going to have to maybe do something different to be heard. So.
Well, I'm always open to all options for getting our point across, and I've been accused of being both an optimist, but I'm also a determined person. And so I just think that we don't have the option to say, this is a done deal and there's nothing we can do about it. I always think there are things that we can do about it.
The people there will never quit.
Well, yeah, no.
People will never quit.
Absolutely,
That's not an issue. It's just, it's just difficult.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
It is difficult. I know.
It is difficult.
But again, I appreciate you. You've done a ton of work in this deal. You really have.
I'm happy to do it.
On that 1,000-foot, does that include the creeks?
No, it does not. It includes, so there is another setback for creeks of a certain size, but it's, I think it's 200 feet.
Does it have to flow year round? Be a creek?
There's a specific designation on a scale to determine how big creeks are, and I'd have to look at the specific one. I don't know that intermittent streams, just what they call those kinds of creeks that sometimes run and sometimes don't. I don't know if they would be covered or not. I'd have to look at it and see.
Is there a law that they can't build one within so many feet of a game refuge, government refuge?
No. The only place that's protected right now is Grand Lake.
Oh, surprise.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
But still good for Grand Lake, I guess. It needs it too.
Sean?
Yeah. Hey, thank you for reaching out to that constituent. He said y'all had a good visit.
We did. He was a great guy. I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and people like him are kind of rare. He's a real pragmatic guy.
Well, he appreciated it. Can I visit with you just a little bit after this meeting?
Sure.
And Chrissy, hey, while you're here real quick, will you let me know where I can get the agendas for the PACE and also the board minutes? Will you look into that for me? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions from Ms. Hill? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Keep up the good work. Old business, none pending. New business, none pending. Announcements, next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, March 11th, 2 o'clock. Need a motion.
So moved. Section.
Motion second. All in favor?